What's up, guys? This is Jimmy with Hifly Fitness, and today I'm going to be talking to you about why programming is the most important factor in determining whether or not you're going to be a successful competitor and a successful competitive athlete. So I'm going to go over a good novice program, a good intermediate program, and maybe a good advanced program, and why programming essentially will be able to provide you with long-term progress and therefore maximize your competitive potential. A majority of the factors are going to come down to diet, work ethic, programming, and genetics. In my opinion, programming trumps genetics 9 times out of 10 for the general population. So you can have good genetics, but shitty programming, and likely if somebody else has decent genetics and good programming, that person will be able to beat the better genetically gifted athlete. And here's why. So a good example of a novice program to somebody that's just starting to learn how to strength train and get a good base of strength so that they can put that strength towards their individual goal, in my opinion, would be a high-frequency training program with a repetitive frequency of the compound movements and linear progression. An example of that could be Blaha's 5x5, Mark Repeto's starting strength, Bill Starr's 5x5, Madcow, actually not Madcow's, Stronglifts 5x5. Essentially, all of these programs are founded on 5 lifts: the squat, the bench press, the deadlift, and the military press, and then like a row or a Penlay row, or the original 3x5 Mark Repeto's starting strength has a power clean. I don't necessarily know how to teach the power clean, so I tend to lean towards the row. Only the squat is performed 3 times a week. Everything else is two times or 1 time a week, depending on how each person decides they want to run the program. Why is this good? This program is good because they're able to progress every single day that they go into the gym. The reason is, let's say that they train Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On Monday, that person is going to be fatiguing themselves a little bit, so the fatigue level is going to be shown on the graph downward. This is going to be the super compensatory graph. So the fatigue is going to go down, or is going to increase, resulting in a downward curve. And then during the rest day, they're going to recover. And then their strength, the new strength curve is going to stop here. And then that Wednesday, they're going to fatigue themselves again. The fatigue is going to increase. They're going to recover, and then on that Friday, they're going to have a higher level of strength. They're going to be able to run this probably for about 6 months to a year, especially males, and especially males that are bulking that have no problem gaining weight. So once that person actually stalls, they can move on to an advanced novice stage where they can continue to linearly progress, but they're only going to progress 2 times a week versus 3 times a week, say on the squat, and then it'd be 1 or 2 times a week for the deadlift as well. But deadlift, and bench, and the row, and the military press 1 or 2 a week for that. Now, when they stall, the reason why having a solid novice program is important is because when they stall on that good solid novice program, it's very easy to look back and see what are they performing well. What is their weaknesses? Why did they stall exactly at that point? And many times it has to do with some sort of muscular imbalance, or maybe it's really just fatigue, and typically it is fatigue, and they simply can't recover quick enough. So, okay, they look at that advanced novice routine. Okay, let's allow them to recover more and a little bit slower, but to maintain the linear progression so that they can continue somewhat of a weekly progression. And it's not going to be a completely linear curve. Sometimes they're going to have to stall out, and then they're going to keep progressing. But the goal is to kind of maintain a linear-like curve. So looking at that program, they'll go on an intermediate program. Let's say, for example, the Texas method, which is listed in Practical Programming of Mark Ripetoe's book. And I really do like the Texas method. I actually believe it's one of the best structured programs for the intermediate athlete, and it's extremely personalizable for the intermediate athlete as well. But with that program, the Monday workout is a 5x5 kind of higher volume day. And that day is kind of dedicated to kind of maximizing some fatigue, so that way they can recover by Friday. I believe on Friday is going to be the day that they hit their new personal record. But Wednesday is kind of a lighter day, so they accumulate some fatigue, but not enough to prevent them from recovering fully by that Friday. So on that Friday, every week, they're increasing their 5 rep max maybe on a certain lift, or maybe their 2 rep max, their 1 rep max. Depends on the week and depends on the lifter and what they want to focus on for their personal record. And this is also very important because at the intermediate stage, their personal records and their personal goals are going to start to change. Once they have that base built from the novice program, they're going to have something that they can build on from that to focus on their individual goals. And if you don't have a proper program to focus on your individual goals, then how are you going to reach those individual goals? So with the Texas method, let's say you want to be a powerlifter, you would focus on the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, and everything else would be an accessory to improve the squat, bench, and the deadlift. Let's say your deadlift is weak at the bottom. Okay, well, one of the accessory movements that you would add would maybe be a deficit pull from the bottom, or from below your feet, so that you're increasing the amount of speed and the amount of power you can generate from the floor. Okay, now what about the bench press? Let's say that they're weak at the bottom. Let's add a floor press, or let's add a close grip bench press. So all of these exercises will be added to allow them to pursue their personal goals. And the personal goals can only really be individualized at the intermediate stage. Not many things you can do at the novice stage that's going to lean towards a specific goal, like maybe you want to be a bodybuilder. There's only maybe a few things you can do to focus on being a bodybuilder. Once you get to the intermediate stage, though, you can totally focus on being a bodybuilder. You can focus on maximizing results with a higher rep range and getting stronger and getting bigger. And there's just so many different things you can do in the intermediate stages that programming itself will be the thing that will determine how successful you will be to achieving that goal. Talk about the competition aspect of this. If you want to maximize your competitive nature and your competitive potential, you need to make sure that that intermediate program that you're running, hopefully it's not a total template, but hopefully everything that you do in that program is tailored towards your competitive sport. For powerlifting, you need to make sure that you are peaking properly for your 1 or 2 days of the year, where you're showcasing your strength and your ability to perform at the maximum level. So there's different ways to maximize your competitive nature, but in my opinion, they're still on a program, but having a program itself, it needs to be surrounded on maximizing your competitive nature. And once you start stalling as an intermediate, you need to further advance your training, and the only way to do that is to change something in your programming to allow for even longer progress, because now your recovery abilities have reduced to maybe every month you can actually recover from your training. So a lot of different ways to program will be implemented there. There's usually a long-term accumulation phase, a long-term strength phase, a long-term intensification phase, just to peak for a certain event, or just to continue the progress long-term. And there's so many different variables that come into play here. But the only way that you can actually program as an advanced is if you had a proper program as an intermediate and had a proper program as a novice. Because then you can look at each one of those stages and figure out where you went wrong, what are your weaknesses, what do you need to improve on for the next stage, for the next level of training capacity, training advancement. And I really like to just emphasize this point as much as I can, but you just need to get the programming on point, or you'll just remain mediocre. You won't know what to do when you stall, and you'll try too many things for too long to progress, that you won't make any long-term progress or any short-term progress that's sufficient enough to maximize your competitive nature as an athlete. And that's really all I have to say. And if you want more information, message me on Facebook, go to my website. I have a few novice programs. I'm working on an intermediate program right now. But the point is, you guys need to make sure you're focused on your programming, getting everything fine-tuned, and progressing long-term, because I hate to see people stalling. I love to see people progress, and I love to see people winning and maximizing their potential. This is Jimmy with Hifly Fitness. I encourage you to rise from within.